They believed no one would ever find out. They were certain those conversations would remain hidden. They thought the words spoken behind closed doors would disappear the moment the discussion ended. But this spread carries an unmistakable warning. The stars have already recorded every conversation, not because the universe is trying to punish anyone, but because energy never truly disappears. And why intention creates a vibration. Every spoken words leave an energetic imprint. Every decision sends ripples through a spiritual field. As I turn over next card, I'm already immediately see a gathering of people. This is not a random conversation. This feels serious. Someone mentioned your name with great emotion. There was hesitation before speaking, almost as though they know the topic would change the atmosphere in the room. One person tried to remain logical. Another became emotional. And a third person staying silent, but listened very, very carefully. The interesting part of this, not everyone is that conversation agreed. The voice defended you, another questioning you. Someone else admit they do not know the whole story. This is important because collective opinions rarely reveal the truth. They only reveal where each person's heart currently stands. So the cards continue showing that your energy has become impossible for someone to ignore. Even people who never expected to hear your name again are suddenly hearing it. Your absence has become louder than your presence once was. And that alone tells me something significant has shifted. So the next card reveals that the person most connected to you did not expect their emotions to become public. For a long time, they carefully protected their image. They want everyone to believe they had moved on, that they were unaffected. But during the particular conversation, the mask slipped, perhaps only for a few seconds, perhaps through a single sentence, perhaps through expression on their face. Yet it was enough. Someone immediately realized this isn't over. That realization changed the direction of the conversation entirely. Now, everyone began asking questions. Why you are still thinking about them? Why does their name still affect you? Why haven't you let go? So the cards show this person struggling to answer honestly. not because they wanted to lie, because the truth itself frightened them. The next energy becomes even more fascinating. I see someone walking away after this discussion feels unsettled. They replay every word. They wonder if they reveal too much. They begin worrying that their private feelings are no longer private. Spirit keeps repeating one message. Secrets becomes heavy. Truth becomes later. This is why hidden emotions eventually seek expression. The stars are showing me that something has reached its emotional limit. Someone cannot continue pretending forever. Now, let me share something inspired by one of my personal consultation because it perfectly reflects this energy. A client came to me convinced that everyone around the person she loved had forgotten about her. Months had passed without communication. She assumed she had become part of the past. When she examined, she's come to me. Ask about her situation. The cards show something completely different. They revealed that her name had recently come up during a family gathering. Not because she forced herself into the conversation, because someone unexpectedly asked what really happened between you two. That single question opened a discussion what lasted far longer than anyone expected. Old misunderstanding resurfaced, hiding emotional surface. People who had only heard one side of the story suddenly realized there was much more behind the surface. Several weeks later, my client contacted me again. Without knowing anything about the reading, someone from the family confirmed that a serious conversation about her had indeed taken place. That communication reminded me once again that energy often speaks before psychical conversation arrives. Every situation is unique, which is why collective reading should never replace a personal consultation. A private reading allows us to explore our specific connection, our unique energetic timeline, and the influence surrounding your situation instead of interpreting only the collective energy. So my email for private consultation and first pin comment. Now let's continue. The next card carries an energy of surprise. Someone expected criticism. Instead, they encountered compassion. Another person in that room defended your character. They reminded everyone of your kindness, your patience, the way you genuinely cared. This has completely shifted the atmosphere. Sometimes the honest voice, if it's enough to change our entire conversation. And you know, Spirit keeps showing me exactly that. One courageous statement interrupts an entire change of assumptions. So the next card reveals regret. Not dramatic regret, quiet regret, the kind that appears after everyone has gone home, the kind that arrives when silence finally replaces distraction. Someone lies awake wondering, what if everyone else can already see what I have been refusing to admit? That realization is uncomfortable because once the truth becomes visible, denial loses its power. Now, another card turns over. This one speaks about timing. The stars are not exposing their conversation to embarrass anyone. They are revealing them because important choices are approaching. Someone trusts to decide whether to continue hiding behind pride or finally choose honestly. Thus, crossboards feel incredibly close. Notice how the energy keeps building. Every card adds more emotional weight. Every card shows another lane being uncovered. Nothing remains buried forever. Even silence eventually begins speaking through actions. Spirits also want to remind you of something really, really important. Let's see what is it. Do not waste your energy trying to discover every single detail of what others say about you. Instead, focus on becoming the version of yourself whose energy speaks louder than rumors over code. Because reputation built through authenticity always outlives temporary opinions. The stars are not asking you to chase hidden conversations. They're asking you to recognize that truth has a way of finding the light. And according to this spread, that process has already begun. So the next card, it immediately draws my attention to something unusual. This wasn't just an ordinary conversation. Someone loved their voice before saying your name. Someone looked around to make sure no one else was listening. Someone even said, please don't tell anyone I told you this. So, yet the stars smile when human begins believe energy can be hidden forever. Because every emotion carries its own vibration. Every secret has its own frequency. And spirits heard what words cannot conceal. I keep seeing a table. Several people are sitting together. The conversation begins with something completely unrelated. Work, family, daily life. And then, suddenly, your name appears. Everything changes. The room becomes quieter. And someone immediately becomes uncomfortable. Another person suddenly becomes curious. The one most collected to your tries to remain calm, but the cards show their heartbeat increasing. They thought they would control their emotions. Instead, their emotions begin revealing them. The stars are showing me that this discussion lasts much longer than they intended. that was supposed to be a simple question became an emotional confession. Not necessarily a full confession of love, but enough for everyone present to realize but you still occupy a very important place in this person's heart. Now, pay attention to the next card. This card represents someone who has been observing quietly for a long time. This is individual rarely speaks, but when they finally did, everyone else stopped talking. Because they say something remarkably honest. They look directly at this person and say, you are not angry with them. You are angry with yourself. The silence afterward was louder than the conversation itself. That sentence reached deeper than anyone expected because deep inside they know it was true. Sometimes the greatest pain is not losing someone. Sometimes the greatest pain is realizing you were the one who created distance. That realization is exactly what I'm seeing here. The next cards. The next card shows memories returning unexpectedly. A familiar place, a song, a perfume, a certain time of night. Even the weather reminds them of you. They keep trying to convince themselves there are coincidences. Spirits say otherwise. Nothing meaningful is random. The universe often uses ordinary moments to awake extraordinary realizations. Now I want to share another experience inspired by one of my personal consultations because it mirrors this energy very closely. A client once came to me believing the person she loved have completely erased her from their life. During the reading, one detail appeared over and over again. I keep seeing two friends having a serious conversation in which one of them challenged the another to finally admit the truth about his feelings. At the time, there's no way to verify it. Weeks later, my clients wrote back and shared that the person eventually confessed they had been confronted by a close friend to simply ask, why are you pretending you don't care when everyone can see that you still do? According to my client, that conversation becomes the turning point that eventually led to renewed communication. Experiences like this are why I always remind people that collective reading reveals patterns, but every personal situation has its own timing, influences, or energetic blocks. In a private consultation, we explore your unique connection in much greater depth instead of relying only on the collective energy. Now let's cards reveal another layer. Someone in that conversation defends your reputation far more passionately than you would ever expect. When another person questioned your intentions, they immediately interrupted. When someone misunderstood your action, they correct them. When duped appeared, they remind everyone of your kindness. The fascinating part is this. They defended you even though you weren't there to hear it. That tells me this respect for you is genuine. People reveal their true character more clearly than they speak about someone who is absent. The next card carries a warning. Do not allow temporary silence to convince you what nothing is changing. Someone or some of the most important conversations happen where you cannot see them. Some of the biggest decisions are made privately. Some of the deepest transformations begin long before anyone announces them. Spirit keeps repeating one phrase. Preparation always happens before revelation. The final energy of this section feels incredibly powerful. I see someone looking on their phone. Yes. Opening your conversation, closing it, opening it again, typing, deleting, typing again. Not because they have nothing to say, because they suddenly understand what next word they sent could change everything. The stars suggest that they are becoming less afraid of the truth than they are of living with regret. And when this balance shifts, people begin make decisions they once believed they never would. This is why this spread continues to emphasize that hidden conversation are no longer reminding hidden. The energy has already started moving. The truth is getting closer to the surface. And once truth begins rising, it rarely returns to silence. So don't forget follow my channel because in next reading we'll continue and see what will happen next.